The absolute disrespect that I have seen in rankings toward not just by analysts, but on Instagram, on social media, toward Florida, Utah, Minnesota, and UCF is absolutely atrocious. And I guarantee you there are other teams, there are plenty of other teams that have also been poorly ranked, but these four absolutely stuck out to me. And just to give a brief breakdown before we dive in deep with each team, all of these four coaches, Dan Mullen, Kyle Whittingham, PJ Fleck, Gus Malzahn, they're all good coaches. All good coaches who have done very well so far with their programs, or their previous programs. I mean, I already think that Gus Malzahn's doing an amazing job at UCF, just from spring practices and just knowing what he's done at Auburn in especially his first year. And same thing with Kyle Whittingham and PJ Fleck, building their historically not so good programs into something, and then Dan Mullen just taking a Florida team whose previous two coaches, Jim McElwain and Will Muschamp, absolutely ruined that team, and Mullen rebuilding it into something that reached the SEC championship and almost competed with Bama and got him into overtime. That almost happened. Florida almost took, arguably what I believe is one of the greatest of all time teams. They almost took him into overtime. That's how good that Florida team had the potential to be, was that. But to get started into the depth and into investigating why I think these four teams should not be disrespected by analysts and why people should be high on these teams next year, you got Florida. And Dan Mullen almost has 100 all-time career wins. He's a solid head coach. In my opinion, he's the best SEC East head coach at the current moment. And you may be thinking, well, there's Kirby Smart. And yes, Kirby Smart has done an amazing job at Georgia. He's brought them to new heights. But I think after last year's Florida win and how inconsistent that Florida team was and how badly they beat down Georgia, Mullen so far is ahead. Now, entering next year, of course, I think it'd be ridiculous for you to. It wouldn't be completely ridiculous, but it would be pretty insane to predict that Florida's gonna do what they did to Georgia last year. This game is going to be much closer to being in Georgia's favor than it was last year, whether that results in a close loss, close win, dominant win. I don't think it'll be a dominant win for Florida, but we'll get to that later. Florida is ranked number 17th in ESPN's post-spring rankings and number 14th in the ESPN FPI. And I think the analysts actually accurately rated Florida, in all honesty. And I think that what bothers me about Florida being quote-unquote underrated is many people in the college football world that I follow, and that not even ones that I do follow on social media, are very, very low on Florida. And I don't think that that is correct. Florida does have only 12 returning starters, 5 on offense, but the offense shouldn't be a concern. I think you have a great quarterback in Emory Jones, who showed promise in the bowl game. And, I mean, handing the keys to him, you'll have a great offense. Mullen is proven on offense. His staff is proven on offense. He's shuffling the deck around a little bit. And so far, I do believe in Mullen. I believe that Florida should keep him, especially since he reached the SEC championship game and competed. They fought to the very end. They actually held Bama to 0 points in the third. This wasn't like Tom Herman's Texas where they choke away in the fourth. This was a team that was being beat down by one of the greatest teams of all time, and they fought back. And now you got seven starters returning on defense, and these 7 starters are needed to help a defense that ranked around 100th in passing yards allowed. That's pretty bad. Pretty bad. They let Vanderbilt and Kentucky lead them at some point. That's nothing to be proud of, and those leads were on Florida's defense. In all honesty, Florida's defense let Georgia take a 14-0 lead when we later found out their quarterback, Stetson Bennett, at the time, was not really a good quarterback. Florida's defense really needs work. Todd Grantham better improve that defense, along with Mullen hired an Auburn assistant to help with, I believe, the secondary. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. Their 2021 recruiting class is number 12, according to 24/7 Sports. And their top 2 players, you got a 5-star, 12 4-stars, and 9 3-stars. Their top 2 recruits are in the secondary. And I think that will be very helpful. We could see some playing time from these freshmen, if at all possible. And my projected finish is around 10-2. And like I mentioned, a win against Georgia is more possible than most would like to believe. Many would like to believe that next year, and I kind of believe this in the beginning too, that a 42-0 win against Florida is, in all honesty, possible. And it is certainly possible. It's not as likely as many would like to think, though. I think that Mullen, as an individual head coach, taking staff and everything else out of consideration, Mullen, Kirby Smart, Mullen's the better head coach. And I think that, along with rivalry and the mentality, knowing that you can beat Georgia, who's the best team for now, been consistently the best team in the SEC East, I think that a win against Georgia is very possible. That should be expected, even though I don't think it will happen. Again, around a 10-2 finish, close to top 10, if not inside the top 10 ranking by the end of the regular season. And I say 10-2 finish because I'm not going to be projecting bowl games until the all conference predictions, which will be coming soon, as I have said in my other videos. I'm working on them right now. Next, you got Utah. And Utah under Kyle Whittingham has been a pretty consistent head coach. He has won an undefeated season there. He has coached teams with very high potential. Albeit had some very disappointing finishes. 2019 was disappointing. The previous year was also disappointing. They reached the Pac-12 title in both of those years. 2019, if they would have won that game, even if it was by a point, they would have been the 4th seed in the playoff. Probably would have gotten lambasted by LSU. But regardless, they've had some disappointing finishes, and that's the one caveat to Kyle Whittingham. He has not won his current conference championship yet. He has a 134-66 all-time record. ESPN's FPI, this is the most asinine ranking I have seen ever. A number 57 ranking in the Football Power Index. And they have 18 returning starters, and most of their, on offense, there are 2 positions, running back and quarterback, where there is no returning starter. You got 2 transfers each for those positions. TJ Pledger and Chris Curry at running back, and quarterback transfers Charlie Brewer and Jaquidin Jackson. I think Utah's primed and loaded to take the Pac-12 next year. Will they do it? I can't say. I'd say it's pretty close to 50-50, but my prediction's taking the safe bet. And with history, they probably won't win the championship game, and if they do, they're not making the playoff. But 10 starters on offense, 8 on defense. Kyle Whittingham always has solid defenses. And with 8 returning starters, this should be one of the Pac-12's better defenses, if not their best. They have 4 4-stars. The rest are 3 stars or unranked. But their 4 4-stars are either positions Utah needs depth at, a running back and a dual-threat quarterback, or positions Kyle Whittingham exceeds at developing, or a.k.a. linebackers. And my projected regular season finish is 11-2. Either 2 regular season losses and by regular season I mean before the championship week, either 2 losses or you're 1 loss and then you lose in the championship game. I think a loss to USC is next to guaranteed since it's at the at the Coliseum. And I think they will split with Oregon. They'll meet Oregon in the championship game, and they meet them in the regular season already. They're going to win 1, lose 1. That's honestly what I believe. Utah is, again, set to take the Pac-12. Will they do it? We'll have to see. Next up, you have Minnesota and PJ Fleck. And PJ Fleck is a proven winner. He got an 11-2 season before Jim Harbaugh did at Michigan. PJ Fleck is a builder, and I think he will rebuild Minnesota next year. And ESPN's FPI, though this ranking could be worse, this ranking's still pretty bad, in my opinion. Number 49, and they're not ranked in the post-spring rankings. Neither was Utah. Minnesota returns 16 returning starters, 9 on offense, including QB Tanner Morgan, running back Muhammad Ibrahim, and I believe they return the entirety of the offensive line. Again, correct me in the comments below if I am wrong on that. And this should create a deadly running game for Mo and a deadly pass protection to allow Tanner to really light it up in the passing game. So I think their offense will be something to look for. They also return the majority of their starters on defense, 7. They have a similar situation to Florida. The defense allowed nearly 7 yards of play last year, and every starter will be needed to help. Their 2021 recruiting class rankings are number 38. They, again, like Utah, 4 stars, and they have 14 3-stars. No one ranked 1s. Texas A&M transfer Dylan Wright has the possibility to help in the replacement of Rashad Bateman, wide receiver, and we know how good Texas A&M is at recruiting. My projected finish is 9-3. You could push for 10-2. They could just as easily go 8-4, but I'm thinking 9-3, 10-2 is your safer bet. And key thing here, PJ Fleck can get a signature upset against Ohio State in Week 1. We know how Ohio State has sometimes started off slow in their opening week, and Minnesota, I think, will be on kind of their own revenge tour. They were very disappointing last year. High things were expected of them, and they completely flopped on their face. But I think 9-3 is very plausible, and I do think that they have a great possibility, including the Ohio State game, to start off 9-0 or 8-1. I think their Iowa through Wisconsin stretch, though, Indiana in the middle of those two, will be very tough. And for now, I have them losing all 3. They could very possibly win 1 out of those 3, but I think winning 2 out of those 3 is close to unrealistic. I just don't think it'll be done. So a 9-3 finish, easily the Big Ten West. I think Wisconsin's going to win it, but the Big Ten West, I will admit, is wide open. Every team except Illinois and Purdue, in my opinion, and we never know with Brett Bielema what he will do. So safe to say, basically every team except Purdue, in my opinion, has the great opportunity to play in the championship game on behalf of the Big Ten West next year. So Minnesota should expect to compete in that department. And last, but certainly not least, you got UCF and Gus Malzahn. And Gus Malzahn as a coach has 3 wins against Nick Saban. That should tell you everything. He has a 77-38 all-time record. And since he's in an easier conference, I do expect constant 11-10 win seasons like that. And he brought Auburn to the national title in his first year as well. So I expect a bang in the first year. They're ranked very low in the FPI. Only number 70. That's the bottom half for the Football Power Index And it was very hard for me to find who was returning and all. I couldn't find any articles about depth, so I had to do it myself. And from what I could garner, UCF has around 10 returning starters, around 5 on offense and 5 on defense. Correct me again if I'm wrong. That's just what I dug up. Start QB Dylan Gabriel returns, and to help bolster the offensive production, you gain a total of 5 offensive players from the portal and 2 4-star wide receivers. One was a 5-star according to other websites, former Notre Dame player. And you also got 5 defensive returning starters, and like most of these other teams, their weakness was the defense last year. Grand exception being Utah. Only team on this list whose defense wasn't their weakness. And they allowed 33 points a game, which is just unacceptable. And new defensive coordinator Travis Williams will need to tighten up this defense, and I think he will. They have the 54th, the worst out of these 4, but no surprise as they're a group of 5 team. They have the number 54 recruiting class, 1 4-star, and their 1 4-star is athlete Titus Mokayo Atimalala. I probably butchered that name, but again, they have their 1 4-star and he's an athlete. Don't know what position he'll end up playing. My projected finish is 12-1. Now, that's huge, because that'd be a second for UCF reaching that. And the American no longer has conference divisions. They're 11 teams, and it's 1 seed, 2 seed. And I think UCF and Cincinnati will be the 1 seed, 2 seed. Cincinnati will be the 1 seed, because I think they'll go undefeated in conference play, possibly undefeated for the first 12 games of the season. And they'll reach the championship game, and I think they will split with UCF. That's my bold prediction. Cincinnati, they can make the playoff, but I don't think they will. Cincinnati has to go through UCF, likely twice, Notre Dame and Indiana to reach the playoff. And with Gus Malzahn at UCF, that just makes Cincinnati's already daunting task, because they can't have a loss. If they get a loss, they're out of the playoff conversation immediately, because they're not a Power 5 team. UCF just having Malzahn makes that exponentially harder. So UCF will go 12-1. They'll win the American, or they'll be the runner-up. I don't think they could go lower, obviously, but I just don't think they will. And again, all of these teams, in my opinion, are being slept on. So watch out. Watch out for all of these teams. Minnesota will start off hot. UCF will continue to crank out wins and could, like Cincinnati, like both of them could do this. They could finish 12-0 in their first 12 games and then have an undefeated matchup in the championship game. Easily. Watch out for Utah and Florida as well. Those two are the more recently proven Power 5 teams. Utah has just had a better resume over the last decade, same with Florida, than Minnesota has, and better than UCF has had to most people, since UCF is a group of 5 team. That's all I have for today. Remember to like and subscribe and comment below. Share your thoughts and click the notification bell so you get notified when I make future videos. Thank you, and I will see you around.